Hi, my name is Veena Sivaramakrishnan. I'm a partner at Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, looking at banking and finance and insolvency and bankruptcy as my areas of practice. I'm here to talk to you about the amendments that were announced by the finance minister in the context of the insolvency and bankruptcy code. The IBC as a legislation has been in the news since December of 2016. I think hardly a day would have gone by where somebody has opened their papers and not seen the word IBC in some context or the other. In light of COVID, this is another range of measures which the government has come out with in the context of the IBC. Let me cover what I want to speak in two aspects. The first aspect is where I want to cover the amendments that have been introduced, and the second aspect is where I will talk about the impact of these amendments. In the context of the amendments that have been introduced, one is that the default amount itself has been increased. This was fairly controversial earlier because people used to say that you could get dragged into insolvency for a small sum, but that has sort of been increased. Sort of giving a relief to the MSME sector in specific. The other amendment in the same vein has been again for the MSME sector, where the government has said that a separate regime for MSME would come out under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The most important change which everybody in the banking and finance industry is talking about is the suspension of IBC itself in the context of initiating IBC proceedings. Now, if the amendment basically says that any financial creditor, operational creditor, or for that matter, the corporate debtor themselves cannot initiate IBC for the next maximum 1 year. At least that's what has been announced. While we'll have to wait and see how the actual letter of the law looks, but at least what seems to be proposed is suspension of initiation by financial creditors, operational creditors, and the corporate debtor themselves. Now, this brings me to the second aspect of what is the impact of these changes and what will it mean. I think the first impact is on the creditor, right? While the borrowers may look at it as a sigh of relief, I think the creditors will look at it as I gave money and I want the money back. And if IBC, which was the regime by which I could resolve a dispute, has fallen away, then I still need to recover my money. And I'm using the word resolve and recover cautiously, because the idea of IBC was never recovery. The idea of IBC was always resolution. The idea was keeping the company as a going concern, and in that ensuring that the debts are resolved. There is a viable resolution plan, which is the outcome of all of this, which binds everybody, which binds all the stakeholders. With the suspension of IBC, basically all creditors have to do is arrive at a resolution outside of IBC. Now, what is the outside IBC regime has always been peculiar. One of the senior RBI officials referred to this regime as an alphabet soup, because we had the CDR, we had JLF, S4A, all of these, and these were not working because these were measures which the lenders had to resolve the debt outside of any formal process, and which automatically gave them some sort of provisioning benefits. The only regime that exists now is therefore the June 7th circular, which talks about resolution outside of IBC. Now, the June 7th circular is again tricky because it has specific timelines only for defaults above 1,500 crores. The other critical aspect of the June 7th circular is that it doesn't bind anybody, and while there is an incentive for all creditors to arrive at a consensus and a resolution plan, the regime which backs that is not necessarily binding on everyone. So it would be tricky, and if there was ever a time that all lenders have to work together, probably this is the time that they may have to do it. This also means that recovery, and I earlier said that I'm using the word resolve and recover, consciously in different ways, because this also means that recovery measures are not going to stop. At the end of the day, there is no free lunch, and if a creditor has given money, they want the money back. It would also be interesting to see how borrowers look at this, because they would look at various other avenues which do not have restrictions which the Indian banking industry has. For example, raising monies from FPIs, raising money from AIFs, etc. And on the other hand, the ARCs and the distress funds would also look at this as an opportunity.